Now, arguably when learning the press handstand, the most important flexibility range is the straddle pancake position. So this, see how that is the same as this. So today, let's train both this and the press handstand, no matter what your level is. Now, obviously to train this, we need to have some sort of handstand. So that ideally will be freestanding, but it could be against the wall. So be able to kick up with confidence to the wall, be able to hold there for time, both chest to wall and back to wall. And then we already have some sort of straddle mobility. So straddle just means that our feet are wider than the shoulders. Our knees are locked backwards or in a straight position from the hip to the ankle. And then for the press handstand, we need to be able to lean forwards in that position. So have a forward fold movement with that straddle legs. And the easiest way to assess that is video from the side. Sit down on your bum, get your butt cheeks out the way, and then just try and lean forwards as far as you can. Now, some of you are going to look like this. I definitely did when I started. Some of you are going to be able to lean forwards, but just video from the side and see what that looks like. Now, if you do look like this, what we need to do is raise the hips up nice and high so our back, especially our low back, looks more like that. So the angle is pointed this way, not this way. So to start with, it might mean sitting up onto something high like this, locking the knees backwards, being able to get a flat low back there. If you're super, super tight, we might even need to bend the knees in that position. If you've got a little bit more flexibility, something in between is good. And for most people, something very small, just to turn the hip over so you're more into an anterior tilt as opposed to a posterior tilt. We don't want to be rounding our low back. We want to get into that extension so our belly is coming towards the floor, not away from the floor. Now, I'd also highly recommend that you do a standard warm-up for the handstands that entails all the normal flexibility work, especially some forward fold work or some single leg hamstring if you're tighter. So then we've got the handstand ready to go, and we've got the straddle hips warmed up enough to start the straddle specific stretching. Next, let's look at open and closing the hip and also warming up the upper back, shoulders, and get the body ready to load the handstand base. So I'm going to go into a straddle position. I'm going to lock the knees backwards. I'm going to sink the hips back behind me. Now this is going to wind up the hamstrings, the adductors. I'm going to hold there for a couple of seconds, and then I'm going to go into a handstand hand position, make it create a bit more space than normal. So go a little bit wider, externally rotate the hands. I'm going to come down, transfer the weight into the upper back, shoulders, push away, but I'm pushing away and up in that direction, not that direction. We don't want to be falling on our face or making it too planchy. And then we just want to try and take the hips as high as possible, and then come back, sink the weight back into the hamstrings, the butt, and then open it all the way back up again. So we're open and closing the hip. This is super important and somewhere where we need to condition, but it also flosses and open and closes that straddle position. And then coming forwards, holding, back again. Now you will have to play around with the distance your feet are apart and how close your hands are to your feet, but the goal is to try and get the hip crease closer to being on top of the hands, and the tiptoes is a good way to see how high you're getting. So you could get to there, but ideally you'll be right up to there, so up onto the toenails. Next, I'm going to go into a straddle handstand. Now ideally it would be done freestanding from a straight position, open to a straddle, hold there for time, and then be able to come back with control. So from the back, it looks like this. So kick or jump to handstand, starting straight, open to your straddle, and try and lock that in. So you've got one segment straddle position, hold, good 10, 15 seconds, then close, show control. Now, if you can't do that freestanding yet, we're going to need to use the wall. But exactly the same, I'm going to kick up, heels against the wall, then I'm going to go into my straddle, butt against the wall. Try and lock the knees, pointed toes, make the body one segment, try and keep the head off the wall. So from the side, it's going to look like this. There's my straight position, there's my straddle, butt touching the wall, try and keep head and shoulders off. If I have a bit more control, I can push through the fingers, try and come off the wall, hold there for time, and then come back to heels touching but off the wall. So now we're warming up the straddle handstand, either freestanding or against the wall. Next, let's do straddle good morning. So I'm gonna sit down for this one. So it's a seated straddle good morning. I'm gonna go into a nice position that's comfortable for me, again with that low back. So just raise the hips up and down to fit your current level. And then all I'm gonna do is try and come forwards. So in that good morning position, not using the hands. I'm not putting the hands on the floor, and come back again. So we want to see what type of mobility, what strength you have through your range of motion. So that will be different for everyone. It's not just your flexibility, it's how strong you are to go down and back up. And now as I'm going down, I'm trying to lengthen through the spine, make my body nice and long. Again, I'm not placing the hands down yet, I'm just trying to extend as far away as I can. Now, if you're a little bit more controlled here, you've got a bit more conditioning, you might be able to go all the way down to like chin, chest, belly touches the floor, and all the way back, but try not to use the hands apart from reaching away in that direction. If you're newer to it, your movement might be very small, just open and close in that position. But over time, with repetition and consistency, that's just going to slowly increase. So around 10 repetitions there. And then we're going to warm up the shoulders, the upper traps a little bit more. So the freestanding version will be kicking up into our straight handstand and then open and close in the shoulder position. Trying to keep the arms nice and straight. So going in and out. Now this is very, very hard. If you can't do the freestanding version, we might need to go to the wall. Now the wall version is external rotation of the hands again. Nice strong position, so not collapsing at all. And then beginner level, so if you can touch your head to the wall, come back off again. Then I'm going to start to get the head out the way so I can start to take the shoulders to the wall. And notice what's happening is my back from my shoulders to my feet, or that one segment line, so shoulder to feet, is staying as one piece. So as I come on and off, everything touches the wall at once. What we don't want to happen is the back to touch, or the butt to touch, or the head to touch just by itself. The goal is to get everything to touch and everything to come off as one. And then when we come off, we don't lose any height. What we don't want to be doing is getting smaller and collapsing. Now, like I say, that is a very challenging movement if you haven't done it before, but it's very important for press handstand, handstand push up, super strength in the under balance. Then we're going to go back to the straddle good mornings. I'm going to sit back how I was before, get a comfortable position, but now notice I've got a big weight plate in front of me. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to have something that's going to pull me in that direction. So I'm not sticking on my back or anything like that yet. I'm going to have it here, and there's no weight. But if I let the plate start to lean forwards, notice how it's pushing me or pulling me in that direction, which is lengthening the spine. You might need to fine tune where the plate is. I've got a 20K plate, but because I'm only using a partial amount of that, because it's only leaning over, I haven't got the full 20 kilos. This is actually still quite easy and not too intense. So I'd recommend everyone uses a pretty decent plate. If you don't have a plate, you could tie a band or a rope around something and pull in that direction, or you could push something out in front. So stick a yoga block on the floor and slowly push that out. But the idea is that it's lengthening me in that direction. Again, 10 repetitions. I'll just put a timer on for about a minute. Basically, you're resting off the handstand drills by doing the mobility and vice versa. Next, we're going to have a look at the eccentric press handstand, so the down movement only. So ideally, freestanding, kick up to a straight handstand, go to your straddle handstand. Now I'm going to go deeper. So when I go deeper, what's going to happen is my hip is going to roll over, and I'm going to start to articulate or roll down through the spine. As I come down, my legs are going to slowly come in, or my feet are going to come slowly towards each other until they lightly kiss the floor. Now most people, when they do that, are going to have a drop. They're going to struggle with the balance. It's very tricky to go with that full range of motion with control, and it does take a lot of practice. Now, because I can already press handstand quite easily, the eccentric is very easy, but only because I can do the press handstand. When you're learning, it's going to take a little bit of time to get there. If you can't do it freestanding, we need to move against the wall. So exactly the same setup as we've done before with those wall leans. Externally rotate the hands. We don't want to be too hard on the wrists. We want a very strong position, pushed into the wall. I'm going to open to my straddle. Notice as I come down, the hip is going to roll over and the low back's going to push in. So there. Now I keep bringing the legs down towards each other until tiptoes touch the floor. Now you might need to fine tune the distance you are away from the wall. And again, you're probably going to have some areas that you drop. And if your mobility isn't so good, you might need to bend the knees as well, frog the legs down. That allows you to roll a little bit easier. Because what happens is if the legs go too far this way, it's going to pull us off and we'll fall away from the wall. And then back into our straddle position. Now notice now that I feel a bit more warmed up, so I don't need to sit on the mat anymore. But just adjust the position so your hips feel good and you're getting that nice turnover of the low back in the right direction. Get the butt cheeks out of the way. So we've got the up and down here. We can just spend time in this position. So we could just hang out down here. But another way of increasing the stretch and winding up hamstrings a little bit more is to visit the sides. So what I'm going to do to start with the sides is I'm going to take the chest towards the knee. So let me turn so you can see that a bit better. So chest towards the knee, reaching this way, head towards the toe. I can even grab hold of the toe there. I can see what my distance is between the cap and the toe, so there, and I'm reaching in that direction. This is going to wind up the calf a lot and the hamstring, so I can spend time there, and then I can also rotate and take the shoulder towards the knee. So in that position, take the hand up in the air, hand over the top. If you're very flexible here and you can easily get shoulder to knee, you can try and go inside and try and get shoulder to floor. Then I'm going to come back out and do the same on the other side. So twist again, chest towards the knee, head towards the toe, reach as far as you can, try that measurement again, head to cap. Pull on the foot if you want to wind up the calf a bit more, get into that hamstring, and then rotate shoulder towards the knee. If shoulder to knee is easy, shoulder towards the floor, you can reach over as well and grab the toe. So again, I'm trying to lengthen the spine when I go into those stretches. So I do around 30 to 45 seconds on each side. Next, let's go a partial range press handstand. Now this is another cool one that we can adjust depending on our level, and it can be done freestanding or against the wall. So I'm going to place the hands down on the floor. I'm going to step up on the steps, nice wide straddle position. So as far out to the side as I can, because I don't want to have the feet pointing in this direction and make it very pikey, because that's going to make it much harder. So here, push away, pass through the straddle into my handstand. I have the wall if I need to, if I want a little bit of assistance, and then I can just move these closer if I need more wall assist. I can get into that same position, so externally rotate the hands, head, shoulders, upper back into the wall, and then push against the wall there, and I can lift up here and come back down again. Now we do have to be a little bit careful with this one that we don't fall off the wall onto these, but if you create a similar setup to this, you might be able to fall through the middle. And then obviously we just keep reducing the height until we find one that's very challenging to get up, and we just work on that for repetitions, and as our mobility, our strength and control in the movement improves, we can slowly decrease until we can get it off the floor. Now, if you're happy to wind up your straddle a bit more and be a bit more intense with it, we do have to be careful, but we can add weight onto our back. Now, I'm very conditioned with this. I've been doing it for the last 10 or 11 years consistently, so I know my body can handle a 20K plate. Don't start with a 10K. Don't start with a 20K plate. Start with like a 5 kilo plate. Explore the range, see how you feel the next day, and then build your own confidence in the position, because we don't want to hurt ourselves in this straddle. Just make sure when you do put it on your back that it's mainly on your back, not mainly on your head. We don't want to hurt the neck. And then in that position, I'm just going to go down a little bit, test the water, come back up again. If that feels okay, go down a little bit deeper, back up again, and then you can start to max out and come back up again. Again, 10 repetitions, see how the body feels. Any signs of it being nasty, then stop. Go back to something a little bit less intense. So they're my favorite movements and exercises to open up that straddle position and also work on the straddle press to handstand. If you do have any questions, stick them down in the comments. If you're after coaching, check out my website, www.paultwyman.com.au, and I'll speak to you in the next one.